Hello and welcome to the North Coast Journal Preview. This is a show where we take a look at what's coming in the current edition of the North Coast Journal. I am your host, Tanya Schrum, and I am joined this week by, of course, the Arts and Features editor, Jennifer Fumiko Cahill, and we have special guest sitting in for Thad this week, Kate Angus, that we will be discussing some of her work in this week's journal. So welcome you both. I hope you're having a wonderful week so far and looking forward to a long weekend.
Yeah, over at, and I'm sure there are other businesses like this too, but at a newspaper, when we have a vacation day coming up, we're like, oh no, because this means that we have fewer days to put out the same paper. Right. And, people are dispersed and whatnot and, trying to go and have dinner with their families and everything. So I just want to give a shout out to the journal staff and especially the production department, because this week they've had a doozy of an issue.
It's always that way. When you have a holiday, you're just squeezing that same amount of work into a shorter amount of time. Well, Jennifer, since it is your show this week, let's get into what's coming in this week's cover story.
Boy, I didn't think about it as my show. I could have really done some damage if I just planned without Thad here to supervise me. So this week is the annual gift guide, which is, again, I just want to say, I know I explain this every year. The gift guide is not an editorial project. So we don't get to choose what goes in it. It is an advertorial thing, but we find that readers kind of love it. And it is a lot of work for our production department and, of course, our sales department. But the thing that I like about it is that it's all local businesses. And it's our chance to kind of promote local shopping and local holiday shopping and spending your money here in Humboldt where it's needed, where it can stay, and where eventually through my own gen math, it kind of comes back to you. So that kind of makes it free.
Absolutely. And whenever you can contribute to the local economy, you're feeling better about what you're spending your money on.
Yeah, just like it's free. So this year, the book is big. It's like, I can't remember how many pages this sucker is. It's like, I want to say it's like, I should just look and be real. It's like 20 something pages. And I want to say it's 26 pages. And it is party in the front, grown-ups in the back, which means the last spread or so is where we keep all the lingerie and cannabis materials. But I got to tell you, I'm seeing trends this year. Did you have a chance to flip through it, Tanya?
I did flip through it. I did.
I'm wondering if you saw the same trends I'm seeing.
Go ahead.
Mushrooms. It is the year of the mushroom. Everything is coming in mushrooms. There are functional mushroom tinctures. I don't know how mushrooms function. I don't want to know. I just want to be fascinated by the mystery. But there are mushroom tinctures for energy and things like that. There are mushroom ornaments, which are undeniably cute. There are, what did I see? There's like a deck of tarot cards that has a mushroom on it. I don't know if it's mushroom centric. But the mushroom motif is kind of everywhere.
I guess I was just wondering if that was truly a motif or if I was just still in Humboldt County.
Feeling mushroomy. Yes. That is very Humboldt. Another thing that's very Humboldt that I'm seeing a lot of is short boots, which feel free to send us short boots here at the Journal. Also, if you want to contribute to local journalism and to journalists and the important work that we do, I just want you to know that I think our adjacent rooftop is just sturdy enough for one of these hot tubs. That would be fine. I also noticed there were a lot of like socks. And I would like to take this moment to say that socks are a good Christmas and Hanukkah or whatever you are celebrating gift, because socks, they have a bad rap, but like everybody needs to put the socks on. Why can't they be joyful? I'm currently wearing a pair of socks that Thad gave me for my birthday that say, with all due respect, no. I love them. They make me very happy.
I have
Also,
socks that when I love a pair of socks, I will darn them and darn them until they are just threadbare. A
I
good
love
pair of
that you
socks.
I love that you repair socks. It's beautiful. Your grandma's super proud. Um, there's a lot of knives and axes, and some of them are very cool, including, I just want to say, shout out to Melissa Sanderson, our publisher, also runs the hometown store in Ferndale, and she has included a bunch of Guy Fieri stuff, including a Guy Fieri knife. So later, when you're playing Clue, it was Jen in the kitchen with the Guy Fieri knife. Um, there are lots of cool tea things. There's like this camping coffee thing that looks amazing, and which I would use not camping. Blankets are appealing to me right now because my office is punishingly cold. You can't see it, but there are icicles growing off of my chair. Um, and I'm also curious about all these red and blue light things that are supposed to be good for your skin. I don't know what it is. Again, like functional mushrooms, I don't understand how it works, but if it will make me look like a Korean vampire teen, I will use it.
I definitely think that's a trend this year of the different lighting and what it
Right?
does for your skin damage and such. That's definitely a thing.
Yeah. And I think out of our most popular gift in the production room where, everybody's just looking at gifts all week, has got to be the meditating yoga Santa figurine. And I, I also want to say that the little Japan stores, little plushy animals, they have little like cats and sort of Pusheen-like creatures. I kind of love those. Those are fantastic. No, and also socks and also stuffed animals for adults.
Always.
Right?
Well,
Yeah.
and Jennifer, I think you also came up with a great idea for next year's gifts, that we need to make a Humboldt Clue game.
Humble clue, yes.
For anybody that still knows what that is.
Oh, also, I'm sorry, because I'm Irish and superstitious, I can't help it. If you were going to buy each other knives and scissors and things, you got to pay the person who gave you the sharp thing a penny. So it's like you bought it, because I think it's an Irish thing. Otherwise it'll cut the friendship. So you have to buy the knife from the other person. I want to be responsible for some Hatfield and McCoy nonsense just because she bought a Guy Fieri knife. Anyway, it's a very fun thing to look through. And like I said, if you're gonna spend the money and do all that stuff this holiday season, you might as well spend it locally and get to know shopkeepers. There's some really cool things that you are only going to find in Humboldt. Like, are you going to find a Karuk artist's elk horn hair stick outside of Humboldt? I don't think you will. So there's some really lovely stuff, and enjoy it at your leisure while you are, digesting your big feast this weekend.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that story, Jennifer. And now we're going to move to our guest star and discuss the article that we participated in this week with some fantastic photography.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Hi, I'm Kate Angus, also known as Kiki, and yeah, I went and took photos at the Trans Day of Remembrance Vigil in the Arcata Plaza. This I don't know yet, a couple days ago on Monday. So
Yeah, it was Monday. Time's a flat circle.
Right. Yes. Yeah. It's I can't tell if it was like 3 days ago or just yesterday, but yeah, Monday.
It's been an all week for just a couple of days.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to believe that it's only Wednesday. Oh, wait, it is Wednesday, right? Like, oh, calendar right now, like, okay. But yeah, it was a really beautiful, beautiful vigil. And I had invited one of the sisters. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to make it in today. But yeah, it was a really beautiful experience. And yeah, it was really nice seeing so many people there. And yeah, there was just a lot of heart. And it was hard for a lot of the time that we were there because, I mean, I guess I can just go into it and tell you what happened. But so it was a ritual to remember. So they had called and invited the group as well to put a name into the circle of someone who was a trans loved one who had passed. And so once everybody did that, they also had the sisters had like a bag full of names, and everybody was given one to, you know, like a small stack of names that was on a strip of paper, and it had the person's you know, like life, like where they're from or what city, and they're from all over the world, age, job, and then there was a small blurb at the end that described often violent hate crime, and how they had been murdered, or there were some that had alluded to violent hate crimes, but was then categorized as like a suicide, self-harm. And so the ritual for that was to honor those people and the names that you were holding, and then yeah, and then speak them into the circle as they were burning incense and ringing a bell to carry the names, and also to kind of release that. So yeah, it was really beautiful. And like I said, having so much community there, yeah, it was a really healing experience.
And Kate, I'm sorry for my ignorance, but I saw that the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, correct? And is this do you know how many years they've been doing this ceremony? Or was that something that was mentioned?
I don't really. I've only been in Humboldt for probably like just right before the pandemic, and then it took a couple years for me to get sort of in and to know local people. And so I actually had just kind of learned about the sisters maybe a little bit less than a year ago.
I can throw in, I'm not sure how long the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence have been doing it, but you know, it certainly is in line with their mission, given their thing is all about acceptance and universal love for everyone, no matter what, and particularly members of the LGBTQ community. And Transgender Day of Remembrance itself started in 1999, and that was in honor of a transgender woman who was killed in the previous year. And so it has this dual purpose for community members to be able to mourn and celebrate each other, whether it's, you know, loved ones lost to a hate crime or just in the course of life, to celebrate and to remember and to, you know, usher their spirits on. but also, as a way of bringing awareness to the violence that the trans community experiences. Trans identifying people are actually, despite what you would see in some corners of the media, are more likely to be victims of violent crime. And they're more likely to be murdered, particularly trans women of color have a really high rate of assault. And, it's important to remember that and to draw attention to the need to protect this community and also for the community. So, that's the outward part, but then there's the inward part of the community getting together and really support each other.
I was really honored. I've been to ceremonies like this in the Bay Area when I lived there, and I'm just elated that it's something that our community is also now taking part in. So that's where I was like, I didn't know. And Kate, your pictures were amazing that I saw, and I encourage everybody to go out there and pick up their copy of the North Coast Journal and get to see the images and read the full story for themselves.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today. And now I'm going to loop back to Jennifer so we can talk about what's coming to the table this holiday week.
Well, I'll tell you something that I won't be making because it's too hard is acorns.
And it takes a year. That's devotion.
I've gone to events to watch a demonstration of making like a kind of acorn porridge. And that was at an event where Wiyot tribal members were demonstrating. And I tried it, and it's very creamy and it's very like soothing. Like I think if you were, emotionally or physically distressed, this could save your life, But only after I had tasted drank my little cup of it, did I realize I should have savored it because good heavens, it takes a long time to make. And it requires a whole kind of community to be involved. So, when it comes to something like food culture, right? Our food culture is inseparable from the rest of our culture, right? If you take bread away from the French, I don't even know who they are. So then it's kind of like how we express our aesthetics. It's, the making of it, the cooking of food is part of our communal interaction, right? It's how we feed each other is so important. How we eat, all the rituals around eating. We don't see them because we're so used to it. It's the water we swim in. But, think about this over Thanksgiving. If all of the rituals of a feast, of an American style feast, a big something in the middle of the table and everyone passing plates, if that was all gone, it would feel maybe not like the world you grew up in. And for Yurok people, much of their cultural practice has already been taken, right? So when you lose the land, when you lose trees to logging and everything else and development, then you don't have oak trees, you don't have acorns, and you don't have the freedom to go gather said acorns from what's left. And the Yurok tribe is trying to promote food sovereignty by bringing back some of these cultural practices. And that means, reteaching folks how to do something that has been an ancestral practice for millennia. And I got to speak to Analia Hillman, who is the Food Village Coordinator for the Yurok tribe's Food Sovereignty Program. And when I was talking to her, she is the happiest person I've spoken to. She was just so happy. She was like, oh my God, my job is the best. You don't even know. And while I sit here in my cold office going, no, please tell me how great it is. But she gets to go outdoors and do things like, teach kids how to gather and process traditional indigenous foods at schools around around the Klamath area. And she was talking about how they organized this recent thing in October, which I'm very sorry I didn't get to go to. But in the middle of October, which is kind of in the middle of the traditional acorn gathering season, they coordinated with the Parks Department and got clearance to go onto the grounds and at the Lady Bird Johnson Grove and go out into the woods to find oak trees and gather acorns. It can be tricky because the acorns don't always show up on time. You have to go when it's time for them. But they organized this big trip with like 30 people. And she said out of the 30, probably about 20 of them had never done this before. And we're learning to do this traditional practice for the first time, which is pretty great. And it's really interesting to me how, when she was talking about the physical health of being able to bring back a traditional food, but also the mental health aspect of being able to connect to the land, connect to your history and your family, your community, connect to one another, and connect to your traditions. It is no mistake. And in a previous article, I remember I talked to Kutcha Risling Baldi, and she was explaining how one of the things that the U.S. military did during its many campaigns to eradicate Native people was to destroy oak trees, was to destroy the food source. And, they knew that that would not only make it difficult for them to feed themselves, but they knew it would deal a tremendous blow culturally. So taking back these traditions and reclaiming gathering grounds is a really big deal. Right now, there are 2 food villages. There's one in Klamath and one in Wichipek, and they are starting off with gardens and a little bit of space to teach people how to cultivate. But it's eventually, the hope is, eventually going to have like commercial kitchens where they can do demos and teach people to process things like acorns or like huckleberries and stuff, and storage for people to, maintain stock of food. And that's really important because, isolated as we are up here, everybody remembers how pandemic food availability was tough. I know, remember when we thought the blackouts were tough? So, these things are not only for nutrition, but for the kind of community and, how we feel about ourselves, how we know who we are. And there's a spiritual practice involved too. Acorns are, as Hillman was explaining to me, not only a sustenance food, but also a spiritual food. They're used in ceremony. People who do these long 10-day fasts for spiritual reasons might just drink acorn water only as a way to stay alive while not eating solid foods. She also explained to me that acorns are a superfood. And you know what? They better be, because it takes a year to process them. You got to dry them for months. You got to shell them. You got to grind them. You got to make sure you're not picking up one that is wormy and, anyway. But she said it's really this incredible, nutritious food that it's really important to bring back to Indigenous folks here on the North Coast. But that means that we can't let Gwyneth Paltrow sneak in and, turn it into weird candles or something. So don't let me hear about non-Native people going onto reservation land and gathering. Don't do it. But it was really great to talk to her about it. And I hope that everybody will read this and get a sense of what it means while we're having this week of real cultural awareness of food, to really think about the Indigenous population here and what food culture means to everybody.
Thanks, Jennifer, and I completely agree. It's a wonderful story, and everybody needs to read it and also process it in here and feel gratitude this week. So that wraps up our holiday week of the North Coast Journal preview, which the North Coast Journal is now available on newsstands, and you can find it online 24/7 at northcoastjournal.com. I am Tanya Schrum. Thanks for being with us, staying informed and supportive of our North Coast community. Have a great holiday. Thank you.